Okay, so as a recap of where we left off in the last chapter, when Homebreak and North and Catherine returned to Santa Clausen, not Santa Clausen, and they find that everybody there has been turned into little porcelain dolls. And all of the books in Homebreak's library have totally disappeared. Wow. The Homebreak, and this is a recap, last chapter, Homebreak and North crouched beside Catherine. She was down on her knees looking at something on the floor, little pieces, little glistening drops like beads of light. And she says, "It's the tip of Nightlight's staff." Homebreak and North crouched beside Catherine. A small tarnished moonbeam, Nightlight's moonbeam, was hidden beneath the largest piece of the shattered blade. With great care, Catherine cupped the beam into her hands. "What happened, Moonbeam?" she asked gently. "Where is everyone?" Only Homebreak spoke, Moonbeam, so he waved his staff, and suddenly the little fellow's memories were displayed on the round glass of the globe bed. That's the one that Homebreak slept in when he was at Santa Claus. The moonbeam shimmered with all the strength it could muster, and though it wavered and flickered, Homebreak, North, and Catherine could see and hear the terrible story of Pitch's return. Chapter 13. The moonbeam tells his tale of woe. This is the moonbeam speaking. "We are in the big root tree," began the moonbeam, "on the limbs outside a window. We watch the children in their beds. The Catherine book is telling stories of the Kailash. All warm and happy the children are, and so are we, my nightlight boy and I. But we feel something that is a bother to us, a pitch kind of scariness. It comes like a wind. We cannot see it, but we are feeling it. The clouds come dark and quick, and the moonlight and the stars are gone all suddenly. So my nightlight boy looks out to the forest. All around is a badly sound. The forest creatures from every side are a chatter screamily. So fiercely fast the shadows come out of the forest toward the village, toward the big root, toward us. The forest spirit lady, she's fighting most ferocious, but the pitch cannot be stopped. He wears the metal genie suit and has a sword so dark it takes all light that comes near. The pitch says words, spells, I thinks, and all who are close go changed. They're made small and still, and they move no more. My nightlight boy, his face is wild. He has the look of a knowing plan. This look I seen whenever he is about to do a deed most smart and daring. So I listens, and he tells me with his thinking talk, "The game I try will be most tricky. Don't be fooled by what you see." Then he looks close at me and says fiercely strong, "Fly straight and true and never fear." And he takes the staff on which I am tied and points me at the pitch. He throws me with all his mights. So fast I go, fast as light, and into the metal I hits. The diamond dagger in which I live goes quick through the metal of the genie armor and into the darkness of the pitch himself. I hear the pitch make a moan of deepest hurt, and I feel him fall, but I can see the cold black heart of him. I have not pierced it. All around me is the darkness. The cold heart still beats. The pitch, he is moving, I can tell, but what is happening outside I cannot see. I hear many shouts and screams most loud. I hear the bear roaring and the horse make his battle sounds. But one by one, they all go quiet like. I hear the pitch. He breathes hard and heavy, but he is shouting now. "Where is it? Tell me," he's asking most meanly. Then he makes a groan sound. and I feel the pulling. Then I am out of the pitch, but he is pointing me at my nightlight boy. We are in the Ombreck library, but there be no books. All are gone. The little Wormly is gone. Just my nightlight boy and the children's. He is affronted the children's, as if to protect them, but he is much hurt, on his knees from the hurt. But his face is not fearish, neither are the children's, and this makes the pitch anger get bad, very bad. So he's a shouting, I want the books of spells. Not any of the Williams or the Petter boy or the Sasha girl tells a word. Fearlings, they are all around the room now, coming closer to my nightlight boy and the children's. But my nightlight boy says loud and clear, we fear you none. I've never heard him speak with his voice. It is a magic voice he has, like faraway memories and echoes of long ago. Then he laughs at the pitch and leaps to attack. But the pitch throws me and the staff at my nightlight boy, and then all around is strangeness. The diamond tip hits my boy, and there's lights and shatterings. The diamond, it did not pierce my boy, but is broken into many pieces, and my boy lies still on the ground. He shines not bright, but dim and flickering. My broken dagger has let me loose. I am free. So I goes to my boy, but the pitch hits me with his stark sword and it hurts me, takes some of my light. So I am weak feeling, cannot help my boy. The children's look a little feared, but they muster strong and stare angry at the pitch and his fearlings. I need those books, says the pitch, all quiet and scary. Homebreck must give them to me, so you, little ones, will be my bait. Then he opens his dark cape. It seems to eat the light as it wraps around the room. In a blink, all is gone. The fearling's gone. The children's gone. My nightlight boy gone too, and the pitch. Just me left, and the toy turned owls. Then the moonbeam turned to Homebreck and the others. The children's need us. My nightlight boy said his game was most tricky and to never fear. I am trying. I hates the feeling I am having, a scaredy feeling, but I am stronger by the telling of the tale. Chapter 14. A moonbeam, a mystery, and a muddle. Moonbeam was exhausted and dimmed again as he lay in Katherine's palm. Homebreaking North and Katherine reached trying to make sense of everything the moonbeam had told them. They knew the situation was dire, but they kept surprisingly calm. They had been growing increasingly confident since taking the man in the moon's oath. And now the three began to work almost as one mind. Homebreck had read that friendship could produce a sort of magic. North was new to the concept, but he was keenly aware of its possibilities, and Katherine, the youngest, was, in this case, the wisest. She knew in her bones that friendship was a magic with powers beyond words or possibilities. Friendship was a magic beyond words or possibilities. And so the magic grew stronger. They could feel one another's thoughts coming together, sorting through the various threads of what the moonbeam had reported, discovering questions, searching together for answers. This curious union caught them completely off guard, especially Homebreck. Never in his centuries of conjuring had he felt this sort of shared purpose, a mental mind melding of sorts, he mused. It was strange, thrilling. Katherine wondered the first question aloud. Where has Pitch taken Nightlight and the children? What is this new sword he wields that can devour light? North asked next. And why the devil did Pitch want the library? The diamond dagger was shattered, Homebreck declared. All is strangeness. The wizard's mind became totally focused as he tried to fathom the muddles and the mysteries the moonbeam had presented to them. His mustache and beard began to twirl on their own at a lively pace. He felt Catherine and North connecting to his thoughts. Hombre suddenly strode over to his empty bookshelves and began examining each intently. Only a few tiny scraps of paper remained, a bit from spells of the ancient Egyptians, another from interesting unexplainables of Atlantis, some tattered corners of random maps and charts. Even Catherine's storybook was missing. There was no denying it. The library Hombrick had carefully amassed over hundreds of years had utterly disappeared. Hombrick closed his eyes and concentrated, casting about for remnants of leftover magic. I find no evidence of a vanishing spell, he said, his voice edged with small relief. No magic was used. The books still exist somewhere. Then his eyes grew wide. The tips of his shoes stood on end. Catherine and North stared at him warily. He's taken them to the earth's core, Hombrick pronounced triumphantly. That's where Pitch obtained the lead. His saber and cloak are made with it. North cocked his head. Lead? What's so special about this lead? Lead, found at the core of the earth, has been there since the planet was first formed, Hombrick explained. It has never known light of any kind, so no light can penetrate it. It absorbs it. That's how Pitch was able to attack Nightlight and the Moonbeam. He stole some of their light. The madman is growing more wily by the day, North exclaimed in the library. Why was he after that? Hombrick spoke more carefully, as if figuring it out as he went. Pitch needs all the spells and enchantments in my volumes to become more powerful, to become perhaps invincible. He added with some measure of awe. But somehow the library disappeared before he could get it. Hombrick frowned, and that's the part I can't make heads or tails of. Without magic, how can all those books just disappear? North asked. Exactly, said Hombrick. That's the puzzlement. Catherine took in all this new information. Her mind worked with lightning speed as she pieced together all the clues herself. What the moonbeam had told them, what they had found here, and what she thought it might all mean. Then suddenly she knew. It's Nightlight, she shouted. He told the moonbeam not to believe everything it sees. He found a way. North and Hombrick considered the idea of both becoming lost in thought. Then North's mustache began to twirl on its own, as Hombrick's had moments before. If Pitch is at the planet's core, it's a trap, North said, restraining his rage. He knows we'll come to rescue the children. He drew his sword. But he has not faced this blade since the Golden Age, and never with me at its command. He turned to Hombrick. How do we get to the Earth's core, old man? Hombrick felt so proud of them. They were becoming a very potent and powerful team, but this elation gave way quickly to disappointment. He had no answer to the question. That is a journey no man has ever made, he said with a furrowed brow. Then North's sword began to glow and clatter. The cover of this blade's grip began to twist and unfold as it had before. One of its stones started to shine brightly. One of the stones in the grip of the blade. All three of them peered at it. North's heart surged. This is what I started to tell you about earlier, old man, he cried. In a flurry of words, he laid out what he discovered thus far of the sword's powers. The sword is telling us where we must go, where the next relic lies. Hombrick nodded sagely, his brows unfurrowed. He almost smiled. He almost began to laugh. What is it, old man? Asked North impatiently. Why, it's a map of Earth, replied the wizard. We must go to Easter Island. Easter Island? Asked North. Yes, the legend says that's where the Puka lives. The trio began to think very hard. Mustaches, beards, and eyebrows were twirling wildly on the men as they concentrated. As for Katherine, though she did not notice it, a single curl right in the middle of her forehead was twirling too. Wherein, chapter 15, wherein the friends must separate. Katherine spotted Petrov and the bear lying just outside Big Root's door and winced. They didn't look as though they were in pain, but still, it must be terrible to be unable to move or talk or even blink. Can we unfreeze them now? She asked Homebreak. Maybe they can tell us where the books are. I say we fly to the center of the earth and rescue the children, North blustered, every muscle in his body strained to do something, anything, to help the children. How do you plan to do that? Hombrick asked, folding his arms across his chest. I'll figure it out on the way, North said. Let's take things one at a time, shall we? Hombrick told him, looking around. Perhaps Katherine is right, and the animals can tell us what became of my books. But an enslavement spell this powerful can't be reversed quickly. It needs to be done carefully and well. He shook his head. It's the work of many, many hours. Then they'll have to stay like this until we return, North said to Hombrick. You can release them after we've crushed the Nightmare King. We'll help you. Hombrick tugged at his beard, frowning. Some of these spells are trickier than others. If I wait too long, I fear this spell could be irreversible. He looked at the porcelain creatures scattered across his floor. There are no two ways about it. I'll have to stay behind in Santov Closet, and you'll have to continue on to Easter Island. Easter Island? We have to get to Pitch, North bellowed. Katherine added, Nightlight is hurt. The Puka, if he can be found, will be able to lead you to the Earth's core, Hombrick explained. Puka lore indicates that he has a series of tunnels that span the interior of the globe. North began to object, but Hombrick insisted. By the time you reach Pitch, I expect to have restored our friends here and discovered the whereabouts of my library. Looking up at him with her steady gaze, Katherine said, You can do whatever you set your mind to. Hombrick raised an eyebrow. The student reinterprets the teacher's lesson, he said. Well done. Just do me a favor, old man, North conceded. Release Petrov first. I can't stand to see him like this. Hombrick agreed. Then, with no time to lose, Katherine, Kailash, and North left Big Root. On their way to the forest, Katherine looked into old William's frozen eyes. We'll be back, she promised him, and so will all of your Williams, the little kids. She climbed into the air shuttle, strapped Kailash into a seat, and then did the same for herself. To Easter Island. Let's hope this Bunnymund creature actually exists, North said, scanning the sky for signs of trouble. There's no setting for the Earth's core. As he watched them rocket away, Hombrick knew he could trust the brave girl he had raised and the young man who had been his apprentice. They would do what needed to be done. Chapter 16, The Curl Twirls. Katherine's curl began to twirl again as she and North streaked toward Easter Island. She didn't like that they could not all stay together, but she was certain that Hombrick was correct. Only he could manage the delicate and lengthy task of undoing all the enslavement spells that Pitch had conjured against Santov Closet. The parents, the owls, the insects, the spirit of the forest, the bear, Petrov, everything that breathed would have to be individually untoyed as Katherine had termed it. Still, she had been brave for so long, and truth be told, she was a little weary of having to be such a grown-up. She wanted Ombrick near. He was like a father to her. And in times of danger, it feels good to have one's own father near, not thousands of miles away. But she bore this anxious feeling silently. She knew they would need to be at their best, perhaps even more than their best, to save their friends and once again undo the dark plans of Pitch. They were far above the ocean of the Pacific now. They were far above the ocean of the Pacific now. The moon was clear and bright and so close that they thought they could see the man in the moon and his moonbots smiling down at them. They rocketed forward faster even than they had flown on their way to Santoff Closet, and the stone on the magic sword that marked Easter Island blinked steadily. Katherine looked at it with alarm. Is that a bad sign? North shook his head. Quite the opposite. It means we're getting closer. Kailash honked. She's glad, Katherine said. Of course she is. We're on the wildest goose chase in history, North joked. Katherine was glad for the joke, and even more glad to know that North sensed her worries and was trying to cheer her. The dials of the airship let out an alarm. Up ahead was Easter Island. The sun was just beginning to rise when the ship settled gently on a sandy beach. It cast a soft glow over the island, and Katherine could hardly wait to get out. North opened the shuttle's door and climbed down the ladder. Katherine patted her pocket to make sure she had her dagger. Satisfied, she turned to Kailash. Stay here until I know it's safe, she told the gosling. Then she jumped onto the sand after North. Together, they began to explore the island. Hundreds of giant stone heads sat ominously across the barren beach. Katherine had seen drawings of these colossal sculptures in Ombrick's library, but they were much stranger than she'd expected and larger than she'd imagined. North ran his hand across a mouth, a narrow slit below an enormous stone nose. These were carved, he said, but by who? There were no signs of life, no humans running over to see what had landed on their beach, no birds calling in alarm. Katherine and North walked among the stone heads and wondered if there were any living creatures on the island at all. The only sound was that of the waves coming in and going out again. Oddly, Katherine thought she smelled a hint of hot cocoa in the salty sea air. She had the strangest sensation that they were being watched. They were. One of the stone heads had turned in their direction, then another, and another. With the screech of stone scraping against stone, all the heads, as far as they could see, were slowly rotating toward them. The orb on the magic sword was glowing even brighter. North took a chance. Where can we find the puka? He shouted out. We need to get to the Earth's core on the double. The heads didn't answer, but as the echo of his shouts died away, something began to emerge from the top of each of the stone sculptures. Two stone shafts, almost like ears, slowly rose, stretching to sharp points at the tips. The heads had grown stone rabbit ears, every one of them. Katherine and North exchanged uneasy glances. Then something or someone twisted up out of the ground a dozen feet away, sending sand and grass flying in all directions. Easter Island reimagined. Catherine and North found themselves looking at an extremely tall rabbit. He stood completely upright, not crouched like a bunny. He was at least 7 feet tall, with ears, and wore green egg-shaped glasses and a thick green robe with golden egg-shaped buttons. Around his waist was a purple sash and waistcoat with egg-shaped pockets. He held a tall staff with an egg at its tip. Catherine gave the rabbit man an uneasy smile. The rabbit did not respond. He didn't even blink. In fact, he was so still that Catherine thought he might be a statue too. She took a step closer, but to her utter surprise, a group of armor-covered eggs with tiny arms and legs emerged from under the hem of the rabbit's robe. The eggs raised their bows. Their arrows, she noticed, had tiny egg-shaped points. Catherine pulled back again, but North was less cautious. He had seen the rabbit's nose twitch and had an inkling. "You are the puka, I presume?" he asked. The rabbit became a sudden blur of motion. In less than a blink, he was standing directly in front of them. "I am Aster Bunnymund," he said in a deep, melodious voice. "I have been expecting you. Aster Bunnymund. Aster Bunnymund." I think we'll pause there because the scene shifts from Easter Island to the Earth's core, and we'll get to that in the next episode.